If you're tired of having a bumpy, uneven lawn, you want something that looks more like this, now is the perfect time to level your lawn. Today I'm going to take you through all the steps you need to know to be able to level out your grass and get a nice, smooth, even green, beautiful lawn. To level out your lawn, you're going to have to add some material to your soil that's going to level everything out. And typically it comes down to two things: sand and soil. Some people say to use soil, other people say to use just sand, but I'm actually going to use a combination of both. I'm going to go 50-50 pulverized topsoil and masonry sand. And when you choose your materials, make sure that you get the right materials, and I would recommend going to take a look at them before you buy them. Because if you get a dump truck full of material and they put it on your driveway and it's not what you want, you're kind of out of luck. So taking a look at what your material is, when you get your sand, you want to get masonry sand, something that's screened down to about 2 millimeters, and try your best to get material that is dry, because spreading out wet material over your lawn is something that's really difficult and it does not go down easily. Next, let's talk about the tools you're going to need to make this as easy as possible, because one, this is very time consuming, two, it takes a ton of work, and three, it's going to cost you a little bit of money too to be able to do this. So the things that you're absolutely going to need, one is going to be a wheelbarrow or a cart to move your material around. I used a gorilla cart and I also used a wheelbarrow. I got some help from some friends and we did this. We did his lawn, my neighbor, and then we came and did mine together, and teamwork makes the dream work. You're also going to need a few rakes. If you can get a landscape rake like this, it makes the job a lot easier of spreading out all those piles of material that we're going to put onto the lawn. Also, to fine-tune things, if you have a leveling rake, that is your best option when it comes to getting a nice, perfect, smooth surface, because it's going to move out any of the bigger pieces of that topsoil that you have, and it's going to help work everything into those low spots, which is exactly what you want. Before you start your leveling, the first thing you want to do is cut your grass down as low as it can tolerate. So typically you want to have it below 2 inches. If you can get it lower than that, that is ideal. The reason for that is because you're going to be covering your lawn with either topsoil or sand, and when you do that, if your grass is really long, it's just going to knock over those grass blades and it's going to have a really tough time growing up through them once you have that new base underneath. If you can get your grass shorter, it's going to be easier for that grass to puncture through that topsoil and sand and start growing through and thriving again. It may be a little bit uncomfortable to cut your grass that low, and it's not going to look great right away, which is something that's a major drawback of this whole project. You're going to make your lawn look worse temporarily, which isn't easy, especially for me. I love having a good looking lawn. So being patient, understanding, trust the process, and it will end up looking awesome. Once you've got your grass cut down nice and short, the next thing you want to do is aerate your lawn. You're already causing damage to your grass by leveling it, and aeration damages your grass too, so you might as well kill two birds with one stone and let it heal up one time instead of multiple times. So my neighbor and I rented an aerator. It ended up costing us $35 each. We rented it for 4 hours, and the total was only a little over $70. So if you have a truck or you have the ability to go with somebody and pick up the aerator and that's reasonable for you, try to take that option if you can. It's going to save you some money. Once you're done aerating, you're going to have the plugs all over your lawn, and you're probably going to be thinking, should I pick these up or what should I do with these? What I chose to do is I mowed over my lawn again after that had dried out a little bit, and I bagged, and what it did is it sucked up a lot of those pores. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to be covering your lawn anyway, but if you can get rid of some of those pores and leave some of those holes open for that sand to drop down into those holes, it's going to allow you better drainage, and you're going to have a better outcome with your overall leveling project. Next, you need to figure out how much material to order. You don't want to go way overboard and get too much because you got to put it somewhere. And you also don't want to go too light on it because you're taking the time to do this project. You want to make sure you have enough material. So here's a chart that's going to help show you how much sand or soil you're going to need to cover your lawn to the certain depth of your requirement. A general rule of thumb is you don't want to level with more than about a ½ inch of material over your lawn at a time. If you go heavier than a ½ inch, it's going to be tough for that grass to grow through that sand or soil to be able to pop through and be able to thrive again. After you've cut your grass down low and you've aerated your lawn, the next thing you want to do is feed it. So for that, I'm going to use a high nitrogen fertilizer like the lawn food that you see right here. If you're going to be seeding, which I'm going to be doing in the front yard, you're going to want to use a different type of fertilizer. You can either use a starter fertilizer or an organic fertilizer like the chicken poo, which is what I'm going with. Make sure to stay until the end of the video to see if this process actually worked or if I just completely ruined my lawn. So you've cut your grass down low, you've aerated, you've fertilized. Now it's time to get to the step of leveling. And what you want to do is just fill up your wheelbarrows, get a couple shovels if you can. It helps if you can get a bigger shovel. Fill up those wheelbarrows, go throughout your lawn and try to evenly distribute small piles of that sand and soil mix throughout your lawn. Once you've got things evenly distributed and you get all the small piles where you need them throughout your lawn, it's time to start spreading out that material. With that leveling rake, the more you can work that material in, the more it's gonna disappear and the faster your grass is gonna bounce back. After you've spread out all your material, which is a time-consuming project, you're probably gonna notice that you have some areas where you've put down your sand and soil mix that are lower than a 1/2 inch. And in those areas, like I have a few areas that are pretty deep, and for those, I need to put down grass seed. And that's what I have right here next to me. This is called Blackout Elite Grass Seed. This is a perennial ryegrass mix. I got this from my man Jesse from Lawn Life. Thank you for sending this, Jesse. I appreciate it. This is a mix of 2 different perennial ryegrasses, Fireball and Hat Trick, and these 2 are some of the best perennial ryegrass mixes in the world. They've been tested and they perform better than anybody else when it comes to drought tolerance, disease resistance, and specifically their dark green color. So this is going down in the front right now. Let's go. All right, so it's been 2 weeks since I did that leveling project. And when I was finished, I was thinking my lawn looks horrible. It's the worst looking grass around. What am I doing? But now after a few weeks, everything's filled in, it looks great, and now we got a nice level surface underneath that nice green grass. Taking a look at the front yard, it is heavily shaded up here, so I was worried whether or not the grass was gonna poke through and look good, but the seeds started popping up in only about 4 or 5 days. It's all thickened up and everything's really worked its way through. There's a couple spots where it still needs to grow through a little bit, but I'm really happy with the results. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.